Hi, class. Welcome to week 4 of writing proposals and grants. Great job on the ethics assignment. You had a very wonderfully robust conversation about all 3 questions, and I think you uncovered every single principle in the independent sector report that you could relative to them. I think one of the important takeaways from this assignment is that ethics are challenging. So 2 people can see the same situation and have a very different response to the ethics of it. Now, there are some clear-cut things, right? Somebody embezzles money, that's pretty clear-cut, that's an ethical violation. On the other hand, sometimes you have to go upstream and find out what caused the ethical violation. Was it lack of oversight by the board? Was it, a whole host of things could have led to that. So, but that's a pretty clear-cut situation. The 3 situations I gave you are less so. So relative to museum directors and should they take more than a 25% pay cut, I have personal opinions about these things. Relative to ethical violations, a lot of the stuff that you wrote is right on. And to some degree, it really is up to the culture of that organization and their stakeholders and their donors about whether or not that is a sufficient pay cut when people are getting laid off. Personally, I would have taken a bigger pay cut, but that's a personal decision. That's not based in an ethical violation. Relative to racial equity and inclusion and diversity issues, I think that most nonprofits are taking a much stronger stand on that right now. And I do think that ethically, we as a sector need to do much, much better in this respect. So, and I would expect that the independent sector principles will get changed, strengthened, be more directive relative to this. You did find the principles that apply to this, and they're a little weaker than I'd like to see them be. Particularly given what's happened in this country over the last 6 months. We need to do a much better job in the nonprofit sector around racial equity, inclusion, and diversity. Finally, Pilata. I love doing Pilata in this class. And oftentimes the class is heavily weighted to either yes or no that it was an ethical violation. I think the most important issues with Pilata were transparency and donor intent. And, when he was doing the AIDS rides and the breast cancer walks, what happened was people didn't know that 40% of the money was going to his organization. Donors and the riders who were raising all the money thought, 80%, 90%, at least 75% was going to the organization. When it became known publicly that he was getting 40% of the money, most organizations walked away from him overnight. And so people, a lot of times, ethical issues are sometimes you know the answer to it based on what people who are donors decide to do or not do, what the board decides to do or not do. I think he does make some good points. Nonprofits are underinvested in back office and database and things that would help them raise more money and be more efficient, partially because of the 25% rule. The rule has been that nonprofits shouldn't spend more than 25% of their budget on back office, on things that are indirect costs. Well, that has hamstrung nonprofits and resulted in many nonprofits underinvesting in their back office, and that hurts them, and that hurts their constituencies as well. So he's got some good points there, so we'll see. So anyway, overall, great job on the ethics assignment. Let's move on to this week. So this week, what are we doing? We're going to begin to move into institutional fundraising, which is primarily private foundation fundraising. So we're starting a 6-week segment that will take you from soup to nuts, the whole process that somebody who is working in a nonprofit goes through to develop the nonprofit's strategy and proposals to foundations. So this week you'll have an introduction. As part of that introduction, you are going to read and act as a grant review panel for a proposal I submitted many years ago. It is a resubmitted proposal, and I'll tell you a little more about that later. The following week, you're going to learn how to do research in the Foundation Center directory. That's really important. That's where you find your prospects for approaching for foundations. After that, the week after that, you write a strategic plan for your nonprofit to increase their foundation fundraising. And then from there, we move into writing the proposal. So as I said, soup to nuts, you'll know exactly what somebody does who works in the foundation relations department at a nonprofit. You're also, this week, going to get your nonprofit executive assigned. I tried to give everybody one of their choices. I wasn't always able to do that. And you will, so you'll move on. And I will also be sending to you, first next week you'll try to get into the foundation database through NYU's library. If you can't do that, I will give you another link to the Foundation Center directory. So those are the two things that are coming up. Now, back to this week for a moment. So you're going to be a grant review panel. You are going to read a proposal to the Langloth Foundation that was submitted. It is a resubmitted proposal. So in reality, it's 33 pages long. Good luck, you don't have to read all of it. The first 12 pages are the resubmission. Most of the other materials after that are background materials, and also it has the whole original grant that was rejected. So this grant was submitted, was rejected, but we were asked to resubmit. And so the resubmission is what you need to read. It's the first 12 pages. You also can take a look at the budget justification, which is on page 14 and 15. You don't have the full budget because that was submitted through an online portal and it wasn't part of this package. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to read that. You're going to use the scorecard that I've given you to score the proposal. You'll write in a forum for this on what your score is for the proposal, and then you'll go back to the lessons page. The first forum tab in the lessons page has a place for you to vote whether or not to fund the proposal. So that's your week this week. I look forward to seeing whether or not you fund the Langloth proposal, and then next week, the week after this, I'll tell you what actually happened. So as always, I'm available if you need me. Send me an email. We can have a Zoom call. I can answer some questions, and have a great week.